couple of months ago, I made a video drawing parallels between Penelope Featherington and Archibald Featherington, with the aim to prove that Penelope is more like her father than people thought. As a lot of the conversation had prior to that point focused heavily on the similarities between Pen and Portia instead. And yet, following that, my thoughts have remained on bets, the concept of placing them, of ensuring that we're betting on the winning side, the winning horse. And it occurred to me that this comparison of Pen and her father might actually give rise to something even more. It might actually give more of an insight into the theme of placed bets and how it runs through the entirety of the show, not just in relation to Penelope and Archibald. What do I mean by that? Well, keep watching. Before I get into how placed bets is a central theme of Bridgerton as a show and even the book series in some aspects, I believe introductions, mine to be specific, are in order. So, hello, I'm Noria, and on this channel, I talk about characters, themes, and stories across various media, movies, TV shows, books, anime, and video games. If that sounds like your jam, consider checking out some of my other videos. If you like what you see, consider hitting the subscribe button. And with that out of the way, let's talk bets and why the placing of the right bet matters. Which of course means that we can only start with the most logical choice. The man for whom gambling was worth his daughter losing her dowry and his wife having to scramble to make up for his mistakes so her and their daughters wouldn't be tossed out in the cold. I am, of course, referring to the man, the baron, the gambler, Archibald Featherington. I think the reason why Archibald features quite heavily in the show's first season, compared to him being barely acknowledged in the books, is because it is through Lord Featherington that Bridgerton seeks to let us, the audience, know a core thing about the world of Bridgerton. Bridgerton, as a show and society, requires for the characters to not only have a good eye for a great opportunity, but they must also ensure that they are betting on the right horse, not the wrong one. Bonus point: they also need a good helping of luck for everything to come into place for them. It is if they are able to get all these three aligned that good things come to them. Take Lord Featherington, for example. After his realization that he is on the brink of utterly failing his family and realizing that he would need to turn things around to ensure his daughter's happiness, he is struck by the sight of an opportunity presented right in his lap. A chance for him to work together with Will Mondrich, whereby Will agrees to through his next fight, and Archibald, who had bet that Will would lose, is able to walk away much richer. For this bet to work out the way he wants, certain things needed to happen for Archibald Featherington. Firstly, he needed to convince Will of this idea, and then he needed to take someone willing to accept his bet, which was extra difficult because word had gotten around that his bet could not be trusted, nor could his word be banked on. Now, if you're watching this video and have at least seen the first season of the show, you know exactly how this played out. Archibald Featherington was indeed able to get Will to agree to throw his fight. And he was able to get people who took him on his bet. Unfortunately, his luck didn't hold out as the mob, who were the people he placed the bet with, stupid Archibald, reached the logical conclusion that Archibald Featherington had connived with Will to win money off of them, and they killed Archibald as a result. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I am mentioning Archibald when it is clear that he didn't actually win or gain anything from the bets he had placed and made. Well, that's because my focus is less on Archibald and more on Will Mondrich, who is the one who actually made the right bet. Because sure, going along with Lord Featherington and his plan might have cost Will his honor and virtue as a fighter. And the show lets us know that this is something that clearly weighed heavily on Will when he was coming to that decision. But at the same time, he realized that this was an opportunity he wasn't going to get again. And his boxing career wasn't one that was necessarily going to be sustainable to him and his family. That and his conversation with Alice were what propelled him to take Archibald on his offer. And as luck would have it, Will Mondrich placed the right bets, seeing that he wasn't the one with the idea, nor was he the one that went to the mob bookies to place the bet. He got to remain safe. Archibald was killed and Archibald's share of the winnings taken away, but Will, on the other hand, got to invest that money into his very own bar and thus became a self-sustaining businessman. But from the events of season 3, where we see the gentleman of the ton cautioning Will about his choice to retain ownership of his bar, even after the entire Mondrich family were elevated to British nobility by virtue of their son Nicholas becoming the new Lord Kent, we see that another opportunity came the Mondrich's way. And once again, Will Mondrich had to make the right call. Does he retain ownership of the bar whilst skirting the social ostracism that was coming his way should Queen Charlotte realize that he was still play acting as a bar owner even after he had become the father of a British lord? Or does he let it go? Just as just as has just as has been consistent with Will's character in the story so far, it is up to him to make the right choice and bet on the right horse. And the show, with the way it wraps things up in season 3, lets us, the viewers, know that Will's decision to fully commit to the life of a noble is most likely him once again placing the right bet in a way that it gets to benefit him and his family. Now, is this the right move? Well, Bridgerton has always been a very big upholder of its class status. And if you would love for me to make a video about Bridgerton and class and what it says about their world and us, the viewers, let me know and I will work towards having that video made and shared. But away from Will Mondrich and Archibald Featherington, and let's look at two other young women who represent both sides of the divide and what happens when you place your bets on the right horse versus the wrong one. Cressida Cowper, from the very first time we meet her in the show, is a character who's always, sadly enough, always bet on the wrong horse. She spent a large chunk of the first season trying to worm her way into royalty by attempting to catch the eye of Prince Frederick, nephew to Queen Charlotte and an eligible bachelor in search of a bride. She created the opportunities, put herself in line to flirt heavily with him, hoped that Daphne Bridgerton's interest and courtship by the Duke would have her out of the running, also that Cressida can secure the ring and crown. Unfortunately for her, although she did have both the opportunity and technically the right person picked, she didn't have the luck. Because all it took was Daphne being upset that she had been led on by Simon and thus turned her eyes to the prince to one up Simon Basset, and Cressida was out in the cold. All season spent in search of a suitor with no results. And this same thing repeated itself in season 2. Once again, she figured that she had placed the right bets with Jack Featherington, the newly received Lord Featherington after Archibald's passing. And, you know, a part of me had been wondering, would Cressida have minded if the news had finally been revealed to her that all Jack Featherington had to offer her was the title of Baroness and a ring? And I have since realized that she most likely would not have minded. A dowry would have been more than sufficient, and we do get confirmation from the story itself that the Cowpers are very, very wealthy. Cressida would most certainly have been humiliated upon the first discovery, but she strikes me as a young woman who would take the humiliation of discovering that her new husband is broke rather than her staying unmarried and still on the marriage mart for the third year running. I think she would have liked those chances. However, as much as Cressida would have been perfectly fine with marrying Jack Featherington, and she had clearly placed her cap on him, she was outwitted and outfoxed by Portia Featherington, who instead snagged Jack for her daughter Prudence. Once again, Cressida was out of luck. And so she starts the third season, markedly different from the previous two. She's lost and lost again and again, but seemed to have gained a new friend in Eloise, which she's all happy with. Plus, there's a new gentleman in town. Sure, he might seem a bit odd, but she does seem to get along with him when they do chat, and she's without any airs or expectations of how she's meant to behave. Once again, she's found the right horse. She didn't really create the opportunity, but she did put herself out there with the hope that he would notice and choose her. However, once again, Cressida has the worst luck, because instead Lord Devlin prefers Penelope Featherington and is all ready to propose to her, and even after Penelope is revealed to have feelings for Colin and vice versa, rather than turn to her, her being Cressida Cowper, Lord Devlin chooses to walk away. And with that bit of disappointment in the bag, Cressida's parents respond by trying to force her into marriage with an octogenarian, also that she doesn't become a spinster in their home. And while she's floundering on what to do, she's hit with the realization that there's another card she can play. She claims the identity of Lady Whistledown, which horrifies her parents and her grandfather suitor, who ditches all talks of the impending wedding. Cressida, though, doesn't mind and instead seeks financial independence by trying to convince the queen to give her the reward money for outing herself and thus finding Lady Whistledown. And indeed, it was quite the brilliant play. Cressida realized that Lady Whistledown was a good bet, created an opportunity for her to claim that identity and the monies to be gained from the scandal, and would have succeeded if not for her rotten luck. Contrast her with Penelope Featherington, who from the very first season takes a very risky bet. She starts her Lady Whistledown column whilst hiding and maintaining her anonymity in the house and in the balls she gets to attend with the family. She creates the opportunities by observing, keeping her head low, working out a partnership with the printers and helping the delivery boys, who in turn push her columns to the larger society. She made the right call, placed the right bet. Of course, the members of the ton love to talk. They are the biggest gossips in their society. But what's even better than rumors and gossips you hear are the ones that others tell you. And within that was Penelope's opportunity to turn this into something big, something that would capture everyone's attention. And she succeeds. So much so that she catches the queen's attention too, and would have been caught as well if not for her sheer luck that our best friend, Louise Bridgerton, was just as desperate to help Lady Whistledown maintain her secret and keep her identity unknown, even as Eloise thought she was protecting someone else. It's serendipity. And the fact that Penelope as a character is someone who thinks fast, gets ahead of things, makes the right calls, and is often lucky, is what keeps her in business. Genevieve Delacroix discovering Pen's secret could have easily turned sour, but Pen makes the right call immediately and brings her on board as a partner. It is a placed bet that pays off for her character, especially because she is extremely lucky that Madame Delacroix is someone who is to be trusted. And even with how she resolves the issue of her identity and her trying to get away from Cressida's blackmail of her, so the former can raise enough money to stand on her own 2 feet, is a great contrast of the two women. Both of them are women who are aware of the opportunity present within the situation. Both of them created it, as a matter of fact. Unfortunately for Cressida, not only is she unlucky, but she also made the wrong call. Rather than think of a way to ask Penelope for help with how to get away from being shipped off to her aunt, she takes the chance that she might be able to get the money she needs from forcing Pen's hand. Pen, on the other hand, decides that she is the one who is going to get to control this facet of her life and identity. And rather than give up her power and stick with a losing hand, she instead makes her own call, hoping that it's the right one. She reveals her true identity to both Queen Charlotte and Violet Bridgerton, and eventually exposes her identity to the rest of the ton, thus securing the power and control over her life and how she is seen by the rest of the ton. It is an interesting move that pays off for her and also shows that Cressida made a bad call and suffered as a result of that. That's the thing about Bridgerton. We've seen a lot of characters play the wrong hand and get bitten as a result of it. Marina Thompson edges her bets on Colin Bridgerton, dismissive of Penelope's request that she, you know, choose someone else, and suffers the consequences of her bad hand when Penelope, as Lady Whistledown, breaks the news of her pregnancy to the rest of the ton, moments before she was to elope with Colin Bridgerton. Hell, I would even say that Marina arriving in London, well aware of her pregnancy, and still keeping quiet, hoping against hope that it would buy her time for George to respond to her letters and come and get her and their baby, was her placing her bets on George and his love for her, unaware that she was shit out of luck as George had already died and wasn't receiving her letters. I think it's a great contrast to Daphne being able to secure information about George, which in turn brought Sir Philip Crane to the Featherington household. Information that Daphne was able to get via Kitty Langham, whilst they were both, ironically, playing a game of cards. The show Bridgerton, if anything, seems to be one that is big on pushing that narrative, that none of the characters are necessarily deserving of the lives they live and the endings they have gotten. Some of them merely played their cards right and got lucky. And the question to consider then becomes, what exactly would, for example, Cressida and Daphne's story have looked like if things had been reversed? If Cressida had had a bit more luck, or Daphne had placed the wrong bets? Would anything have changed in a significant way? Would the story we have gotten be markedly different? It's something I've been curious about for a while now, hence why I made this video. I would love to hear your thoughts, see if you agree or disagree with me. Do let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and hit the dislike button if you didn't. It's the luck of the draw with creating content and putting it out there in the world. Some people would like what you make and some wouldn't. And we all just have to live with that fact. But if you did enjoy this video, do consider sharing it with others. It does help me reach a wider audience, which in turn helps my channel grow and is incredibly supportive of my content. Speaking of support, a huge thank you to my Patreons who have been pretty instrumental in helping me keep the lights on. Thank you. If you would like to support me on Patreon, the link to do so is in the description box. I make new videos 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Whilst you wait for new content from me, do check out my last Bridgerton video where I talk about why pens reveal to the ton as Lady Whistledown is a good thing, and how the show can make it work in season 4. Until next time, do remember, obsessing over the things you love? Perfectly valid coping mechanism.